There are many things we do that make life more complicated than it needs to be. Some of them are obvious, like having too much stuff or an overwhelming schedule, but others are more subtle. Habits, mindsets, or small daily choices that create stress, clutter, and frustration without you even realizing it. For years, I held on to certain habits that I thought were normal, even necessary, but once I let go of them, my life became so much easier. So in this video, I'm sharing 10 things I stopped doing to simplify my life and why you might want to as well. Number 1, working without a clear purpose. There was a time when I did things just for the sake of doing them, watching random videos, jumping between hobbies, starting projects without a real plan, just filling my life with a lot of things. And after a while, I started feeling anxiety. I was always doing something, but it didn't feel like I was getting anywhere. I realized that I needed a clearer sense of direction in everything, a way to filter out the distractions and focus on what actually added value to my life. So, to simplify my life, I created a system. Before I do something, I try to ask myself 3 simple questions. What am I doing? Why am I doing it? And how do I measure success in this? The last one is really important. For example, now, if I go out with friends, I don't just go because it's Friday or because I feel like I should go. I go because I actually want to spend time with them, catch up, and enjoy being around them. And I know it went well, I was successful when I leave feeling lighter, like I had real conversations and felt connected with them on a personal level. Or even something like decluttering. Now I decide first what I want out of this. Do I want to make space for something new or just get rid of things that don't add value? What is my goal for today so I know I have done enough? And knowing that makes the whole process much easier and I don't get stuck halfway or feel like I didn't do enough. And here it's good to mention that sometimes the goal is not to have a goal. So to just relax or explore something new without any goal or finish line. And even that feels better when I have set that intention myself beforehand. The second one is always being available. I used to feel guilty for not replying immediately, even when it was not urgent. Every notification felt like something I had to deal with right away. But over time, I realized that when my attention is always pulled in different directions, there is no space left for deep thinking, for actual creativity or proper rest. And actually, I was the one putting that pressure on myself. In reality, most people don't mind at all waiting an extra hour or 2 to get a reply or a call back if that is not urgent. So these days, my phone is on silent most of the time, on vibration when needed, airplane mode at night, and do not disturb in the evenings. This has helped me to stay more focused and feel much more at peace without the constant pull of notifications. I do miss messages sometimes, but I have saved far more mental energy than I have lost. The third thing I stopped doing to simplify my life was washing my clothes after every use. I used to wash them after every wear, even sweaters. It just felt like the normal thing to do. But over time, I realized that constantly doing laundry was not just unnecessary, it also took up time and effort that could be spent on other things. Now I know that actually not everything needs to be washed after just one use. Many clothes can be simply aired out and worn again, especially if they are not sweaty or dirty. And this not only saves time, but actually helps clothes stay in good condition for longer, because overwashing can wear down fabrics and cause the colors to fade faster. Of course, some things do need to be washed after every wear, like underwear, socks, gym clothes, all these things. But other clothes like t-shirts are fine for 2 or 3 wears before washing, as long as they still feel fresh. And then I have realized that there are items that can go even longer, like jeans, sweaters, hoodies, and outer layers that are not attached or close to the skin. So making this small change has made my life much simpler, and as a minimalist, I don't feel like I'm always running out of things to wear. Maybe for you this has always been very obvious, but this is something I only learned as an adult. 4. Focusing on the sacrifices instead of the benefits. When simplifying my life, change used to feel difficult because I focused too much on what I was giving up. Whether it was quitting a habit or setting boundaries, my mind would go straight to what I was losing instead of actually what I was gaining. And when that happens, even small changes feel like a struggle. But I have realized that most of the time, what seems like a sacrifice is actually an improvement. Cutting back on distractions is not about missing out, it's about gaining focus and productivity. Letting go of a toxic relationship isn't about losing someone, it's about making space for better connections. Minimalism, for example, can feel quite restrictive if it's seen as just getting rid of things. But when the focus is on what is gained, so more space, more clarity, less stress, the whole process becomes more enjoyable. Decluttering a closet, for example, is not about losing clothes, it's about creating a wardrobe that is way easier to manage. So shifting perspective does not mean ignoring the discomfort of change, but it does make the transition easier. Instead of focusing on what is being left behind, it helps to ask, what am I making space for? Because more often than not, what's on the other side of change is something better. 5. Over-explaining myself. For a long time, I felt the need to justify almost everything I did. Whether it was a simple choice or a bigger decision, I would explain it in way too much detail, as if I needed to prove that I had a good enough reason. A lot of the time, it wasn't even necessary. I was just afraid of being misunderstood or especially judged. But over-explaining is exhausting. It takes so much energy to constantly try to make sure people understand every little thing. And the truth is, not everyone needs to. Not every decision has to be explained, and not everything requires approval or validation from others. I have also realized that no matter how well something is explained, some people will still question it. There's always someone who will disagree, doubt, or push for more details. Learning to be okay with not always being fully understood has been a long journey for me, but it has made things so much easier. Now I try to keep things simple instead of giving a long reason for why I cannot do something and justifying every single decision I make. For example, when it comes to minimalism, I remind myself that it's enough to know my own reasons. I don't have to prove them to anyone. Number 6, leaving tasks unfinished. I used to do this a lot. I would put things off for tomorrow, do them at the last minute, or procrastinate on the final steps, even when most of the work was already done. Every project would start with excitement, but if motivation faded, I would move on to something else, thinking I would come back to it later. But more often than not, surprise, surprise, I didn't. The problem with this is that unfinished tasks create mental clutter. They sit in the back of your mind, adding a quiet sense of guilt and stress. It's hard to fully relax when you know that there's always something half done waiting to be finished. And the more things pile up, the harder it feels to tackle them. So now what I try to do is finish what I start before moving on to the next thing, whether it's a home project, a book, or even a YouTube video I started watching. It doesn't mean I have to force myself to push through something that no longer I care about, but if it still matters, I make sure to see it through. Number 7, drinking alcohol. In Finland, alcohol is a big part of the culture. Drinking is seen as normal, and not drinking often raises questions. It's actually more common to get wasted every weekend than to not drink at all. Luckily, this culture has now been changing a lot in the recent years, and also I, in my early 20s, started reflecting on this habit and realized how little alcohol actually gave me. Even after just a couple of drinks, I noticed the brain fog. It's harder to be present, and I don't anymore enjoy socializing as much. I sleep worse, and the next day I feel sluggish and unmotivated. And of course, on top of that, it costs money. So I was basically paying to feel worse. I mean, what is the point of that? So The more I thought about it, the more I realized that not drinking would give me much more peace and happiness than drinking did. So I just stopped it a few years ago. These days I don't really have strict rules about drinking, like if there's a special occasion, I might have one drink a few times a year, but I don't care at all which drink I'm sipping, to be honest, as long as I'm having fun, staying present and enjoying my time. The 8th thing I stopped doing to simplify my life was judging others. When I was a bit younger, I used to look at others and think, why would they live like that? Why would they do that? That doesn't make any sense. It was almost automatic, seeing someone's choices and mentally questioning them, even if it had nothing to do with me. But over time, I realized that judging others is just mental clutter, basically. It adds negativity, makes it harder to focus on my own journey, and often leads to just more frustration and stress. Judgment usually says more about the person judging than the one being judged, because we don't know all the details and all the background anyway. The way people judge others often reflects how they judge themselves. And the more judgmental someone is, the more likely they are to attract other judgmental people, who at some point will most likely judge them too. But then on the other hand, the less judgmental you are, the more you attract these open-minded, accepting people. Everyone has their own experiences, struggles, and reasons for the choices that they make. Not jumping to conclusions even when I don't fully understand people's choices has made it easier for me to connect with others and to focus on my own path. Number 9, always caring about how I look. Like most people, I used to care a lot about how I looked. Every time I went out, I felt like I had to look put together, like anything less would make a bad impression, and that was not something I wanted to give. But the more I focused on appearance, the more stressful actually social situations became. Instead of enjoying the moment, I would be thinking about whether my outfit looked right or if my hair was a mess. I noticed that always trying to look perfect only leads to self-criticism. And the truth is, people don't actually care that much, or at least the people who matter to me will not care if my hair isn't perfect or if my outfit is not the best. What they remember is how I made them feel, not what I wore. I still like dressing up sometimes, but now it's a choice, not something I feel obligated to do. It's nice to feel good in what I wear, but it's no longer something that controls my confidence. Real confidence, I feel like, comes from feeling comfortable to be the real me, not from trying to look perfect all the time. Number 10, trying to be extraordinary. There's often a pressure to be extraordinary, to achieve something big, to stand out or be seen as special. But constantly striving for that can create more stress than fulfillment. It can feel like nothing is ever enough, because as soon as one goal is reached, there's always something bigger to chase. And I don't believe that being extraordinary is necessary to live a meaningful life. Chasing big achievements might look impressive from the outside, but it can take attention away from the simple things that actually bring the most joy, like quiet moments, good conversations, meaningful relationships. The most fulfilling lives are not necessarily the most remarkable ones. More often than not, they are the simple ones. Of course, there's nothing wrong with having goals or working towards something important, but when success is the only focus, it can be very easy to miss the moments that make life truly worthwhile. If you want to start simplifying and create a life where you don't need to feel extraordinary to feel enough and at peace, check out my course, Simple Life Blueprint. It's full of practical exercises to help you in this process. The link is in the description. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to stay kind and meaningful in your own beautiful journey. See you in the next one.